On the 30th of October 2014, the state of Kuwait affirmed its respect for human rights out of its belief in the crucial role of human rights in the achievement of sustainable development. The Kuwaiti constitution and relevant legislations, according to the Speaker, ensured the maximum degree of protection for human rights and basic freedoms that are based on the United Nations Charter. As long as Kuwait continues to expel some 100,000 or more stateless members of its own community, development is hardly possible. A state cannot speak of sustainable development while legislatively severing a portion of its population. The population was first severed in 1986, where it was made illegal and no longer able to participate in society in a legitimate way. After the Iraq invasion, large numbers of the population were physically expelled from Kuwait. They were not allowed to return across the border after the war. Just a month ago, children who were stateless, who did not have birth certificates, who were normally allowed to start school and to attend school in the private system, were not allowed through the school gate. Children who currently go to school in the private system, where their parents pay for the fees directly to the school and where those parents are not reimbursed by government, are currently faced with imminent expulsion. Many children were also unable to start school for the 2014-2015 school year because those same private schools lifted their fees to make education unaffordable for those families. Hence, there is a three-levelled attack on stateless people whose children don't have birth certificates because the government won't issue birth certificates to them, making it impossible for their children to go to school, and for those few who are allowed to attend school, they are continuously faced with imminent expulsion. Regarding the statement by Kuwait about achieving sustainable development at the United Nations, this necessarily includes economic stability. Kuwait did not achieve its own economic development goals set from 2010 to 2014. This was reported on the 24th of April of 2014 in Al Monitor. The economists who had worked for the government for decades linked the failure of economic development with Kuwait's approach to employment, education and social justice needs. He said that the plan had emphasised the need to recruit human resources on the basis of efficiency, all the while enabling the education system to develop these resources in order to meet the needs of the labour market. In relation to the economic circumstances experienced by the stateless community in Kuwait, the country has implemented the system of illegal residence, which means that stateless people have no employment protections whatsoever when they try to obtain work. Factor into that education was banned from 1986 and that many people were too old to return to school after reforms were made. The system of illegal residence has implemented a variety of structural barriers to ensure that the stateless population is subject to varying degrees of employment instability, unemployment, and poverty. Generally speaking, it appears that the vast majority of the stateless population is probably unemployed, but it's difficult to tell because the entire population has been struck from the census. The minority of people in the stateless community who are able to obtain work aren't covered by legislated employment protections. They are remunerated for work on a scale that does not reflect the pay scales enjoyed by citizens or expatriates in a system that provides no legal protections. This means that they're forced to work for any money that they can get for conditions that range from reasonable to unreasonable. In some circumstances, stateless people may not be paid at all, or will be encouraged to enter arrangements of indebtedness or servitude due to their vulnerability under the existing regime, and they will need to work because many family members are often also unemployed. The refusal by government to protect workers only promotes exploitation and servitude, and unfortunately, so does the stateless population's need to work and their high work ethic. This does not provide for a sustainable economic system, but rather promotes an environment where servitude is not only acceptable but also desired. In fact, while some progressive thinkers in government recently suggested that international servants might be described instead as domestic helpers, there was much resistance to this change, demonstrating a generally derogatory attitude held by many in Kuwait towards people who have to work to make a living.